it's really human to actually care and change your behavior for the needs of someone else. It doesn't matter if a computer tells me how to do it. Only if I really care as a human am I going to change my behavior and my approach to come to the middle for someone. Sure, a computer or technology is giving me those tips, but that's not bad. We should rejoice that now computers can work with humans to bring this moment where I can work with Chris and make you feel better, and have you more engaged.
Work is changing, quickly, irreversibly, and often invisibly. I'm Chris Fanchi, and this show is about understanding where it's headed and how we stay human in the process. Hello and welcome to Human Work After AI, the show where we explore the future of work, technology, and what it means to stay human in the age of AI. We're speaking with founders, technologists, and thinkers who are navigating the shift toward an AI-powered economy. Today's guest is John Betancourt, CEO of Humantelligence, the first personalized AI coach designed to make work more human. With a career spanning global leadership roles at Decathlon, Puma, and top executive search firms like Korn Ferry, John has helped companies around the world align talent, culture, and performance. At Humantelligence, he's pioneering AI-driven tools that help organizations foster stronger workplace connection, improve collaboration, and empower every employee to reach their potential. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
John, you've had a fascinating journey. I like to always start with my guest's origin story. From leading global brands to running an AI-powered HR tech company, what drew you from executive leadership into building technology and workplace culture?
It definitely has been a zigzag. Most people do startups in their mid to late 20s. I started mine at 46 years of age. I'm currently 55. So there was much more trying different things. I did do about 15 years in corporate America. The Reeboks, the Pumas, the Decathlons, which is like a big Fortune 500 company in France, where talent management and talent development were part of my development and what I tried to have my team do. But I saw so many challenges. It wasn't scalable. It was expensive. All these psychometric instruments like DISC and predictive index, really fun stuff. You do the workshop and then you go back to work and never look at them again, right? So I saw that the good and the bad of large company development. And then I was a headhunter for 15 years. And then I also worked in software for Siebel Systems, the first CRM company before Salesforce. Went from 100 employees to 12,000 in 1 year and 8 million to 3 billion in revenue in 2 years. So I saw the power of software in that experience, the problem around talent development, talent management. I was also a recruiter for Korn Ferry and Nidric and Struggles. So I always thought, gosh, if I could put all that together, and scale both hiring with psychometrics and psychometrics for development and leadership and team collaboration. And so 9 years ago, technology was ready, where we found the psychometric instrument, we bought it, we used APIs to integrate to all this to recruiting platforms, applicant tracking systems, and we launched Humantelligence, talent fit for recruiting. We got up to a really big 25-person company, 3 million in revenue. We were crushing it. Then COVID hit, lost all revenue within 6 months, almost shut down the company. But it was almost a blessing in disguise, because now fast forward 5 years later, you couldn't pay me to be in the recruiting space with an assessment, because that, for many reasons, not viable. And we had pivoted to using AI over the last 4 years, and the same as psychometric, to ask a coach questions in your workflow, kind of like Grammarly, but with psychometrics. And so now we are now in the middle of the spot where every employee in the world will use an AI coach to ask questions about how to work with someone, how to lead a team, how to motivate someone, a script for a speech to motivate them. And we're the first tool that does it in a personalized way anywhere in the world. So that's been the journey, kind of like a hero's journey, although I'm not a hero yet. I hope it ends well, but we're on the verge. We're getting a lot of traction now.
No, that's great. So looking back, what moments in your career made you most aware of the link between culture, engagement, and business performance?
I think at Procter & Gamble, I didn't know how good that was, that link and what they had created. But, most people don't know Procter & Gamble, otherwise known as P&G, maker of Tide detergent, Crest toothpaste, and many other products. They have more CEOs running Fortune 500 companies than any other company in the world. Alumni from Procter& and Gamble, um, GE, 3Com, Intuit, you name the company, it's like a P&G is running it, eBay. And so they really showed culture being important because they couldn't lose people. It was only hire from within. You spent 20 years there, and because most people don't know, but there's a direct correlation to really well-run culture companies that believe in it. Those have low margins. Consumer goods have like 1 to 2% margins. The higher the margins, the worse the cultures are because you can just hire quickly, fire quickly, and people, there's so much money to be made, people will join and don't care. Like when you're in software and you're making millions in stock, who cares if they treat you like a jerk, right? And so there's this inverse correlation between the real money where your mouth is culture of low margin companies versus high margin companies like investment banking, software, right? Which all, have horrible cultures. So Procter had this great culture, a culture where half of your promotion and half of your salary and bonus depended on 360-degree feedback, right? And another quarter depend on how you built the organization. So they had a culture of you need to not be selfish and not care about your job, but help other people improve in the way they work and processes that affect others. And so they built this kind of culture of we and the organization over the individual. And they really put their money where their mouth was and promoted you. And you could even schedule, this is 1993, 94. You could plan your whole 20-year career, want to be in 4 countries in 20 years and do brand management and supply chain. And they would sit with you in a spreadsheet at the time and plan out your 20 years and then have everyone around the world do rating systems 1 to 5, where a person in India, Kamchatka, Japan, Brazil, Nigeria, and US, a 4 is a 4 everywhere. That means they're really that good and it's equal. So, and they all wrote the same way with the same. So that's where they really tied culture, leadership, management, and performance in a vision that everyone understood and believed in and bought into. It was really fantastic. And no, I have not recreated that at my company. I wish I could, but it's actually much harder than you would think, especially in a startup.
So how do you go about bringing that kind of culture into some of these other organizations that already have that existing not so good cultures? Like, call it toxic, whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
The tech companies that you mentioned, or hedge funds, what have you.
I think it's hard. I think that's why a lot of companies struggle with that. Like when I was hired at Puma, they had been bankrupt from 93 to 98. They were bankrupt and they got a young CEO, guy named Jochen Zeitz. And he was the youngest CEO ever in the German stock market, a publicly traded company in Germany. And Puma AG, right? The big global sports company. And he was from Colgate-Palmolive, and he was like, "We got to change the culture." This culture was family, bumpkin culture, small German town, and so he said, "I'm going to bring in Procter& and Gamble culture. It's famous. I worked at Colgate-Palmolive. We know how great their culture is at Procter." So he brought me in, and what I did was I literally inserted. It was only 3. They had gone from 10,000 employees to 300. So it was only Germany. They cut relations with every other. It was a distribution model, so they had franchise around the world. They cut all relationships over those 5 years, and we were now rebuilding the company. And I was going and opening each country by country, every 6 months. Opened the US, hired 500 people. Opened Brazil. Started with the G7, the biggest 7 countries: Japan, Netherlands. And so I basically put in all the Procter& and Gamble writing tools, like how to write a memo, how you would communicate. I put in the Procter& and Gamble OGSM, objectives, goals, strategies, measures, and all the metrics to track it. So all the structural and the processes I put in the P&G model. And then I hired a Procter& and Gamble head of strategy and GM for every region of the world. So I was at the corporate level working for Jochen. They call me Little Jochen, which is like Little John. And then I had the P&G-er in every region of the world, making sure that everything was being done in a P&G way, which was great. The company went, everyone knows the story, greatest brand turnaround from 1998 to 2005. But unfortunately, the guy who hired me, Jochen, although he wanted that culture, wasn't the most ideal to lead a culture like that because he didn't really
Mm,
believe in it. He just wanted it. So
mm,
the minute we all started to ask for more money, because we were willing to do this very cheap at the beginning, for the value we're adding, he basically just got rid of us because part of Procter& and Gamble culture is to make yourself dispensable. put it all into the systems where that you are not valuable. It's really everything inside of you is in the system. Well, when you do that, you have to trust that they're not going to get rid of you, and that works at P&G because they don't. They reward that. At a company with a guy who's a leader who doesn't reward that, we all got fired, and he hired random people in those roles. And basically the culture within 5 years after has deteriorated. And today Puma is back to being an insignificant brand that nobody wants to work at because they weren't able to sustain it.
Wow. So you've lived and worked in 8 countries. How has that global perspective shaped your approach to building AI tools for people and culture?
So yeah, I speak 5 languages like English, left at 22, came back at 42, managed up to 30,000 people in Europe, was on an operating committee of a 600,000 person global company. That was Decathlon. My boss today manages Auchan, which is 1.5 million employees, which is insane to me. But so working cross-functionally and working, cross nation is really tough. And so, when building our AI tool, one, I wanted to make sure it was in every language in the world. So the first thing we did was architected it so we could get different instances by customer without having to redo anything. So our platform is in every language in the world. And literally in a day, we can change language for any potential client. Two, because we're an AI coach, what are people usually getting coaching about? The most specific one to your question is when I went to work in France for 5 years, I got a coach about how French people are. When I went to Germany, how German people are. And I thought it was great because generally you do get understanding of the general population. And just like that, an American, what the US people are like, there is a general vector direction. The reality, though, is the person who's from Seattle and the person who's from Miami, there's no surprise you couldn't have two more different cultures of how those people are. And same with Boston, New York, Austin. And we have many cultures in the US, right? So one of the things that I always thought was so strange was, yeah, these are all great generalizations to know, but when you're addressing any one person in a meeting, in an email, in work or collaboration, what if that person's not like the general? And so the first thing we did when we created we have different sections like how to work with one person, how to write an email better for that person, how they like to read emails, communicate, how to manage a team, leadership development, right? There's one button for cross-cultural work. So you can literally pick the country, and then it presents questions. How does this people from this country communicate an email? How do they take feedback? How do you lead something like this? How do you lead a team? What's effective communication styles? But then that's the general part. We made sure we embedded in there, add the name of the person you're speaking to work with, and we'll show you how they're different or similar to the generalization. There's no tool in the world that was built that way because most people haven't worked so much in international. So our AI generalizes cultural values and norms, but also tells you how the person or persons you're working with are similar or different. So that was another thing we did. And then a third example is I built a company with our employees all outside the US who are building the product. So I have all my developers are in Colombia. And although that's not something that the user sees, I do think that having an international development team already builds into the product insights and things that are happening globally and not just for the US. And a lot of people, our tool has little nuances that people say, God, your tool is great for France. It's great for Japan. How'd you build that? And I don't even realize it is because my team is already international. They're putting those little things in there that they're picking up because, a guy or girl in Colombia, they're scouring the world for the latest stuff. When you grow up in the US and you're a technologist, by default, you think we're the best. Let me just look at examples from the US. These guys are looking at examples from all over the world. I think that's kind of being built into the product as it's baked every two weeks of agile development.
So how does your product go about getting that kind of hyper personalized information about how to speak to a specific individual as opposed to using those broader generalizations?
So just like Uber disintermediated the taxi market, we are not coming up with something new. There is a whole industry, I call it a cottage industry, about $3 billion a year in the US, what they call psychometric instruments or personality tests is what most people call them. And so you have tools such as DISC and Predictive Index and Clifton Strengths and Berkman and Caliper and Hogan and Lominger, and they all accurately measure what they measure. Most measure behaviors. Some measure motivators or the values that drive behaviors, but those cost $1,000, like Hogan, and take 45 to an hour, minutes to an hour. And some, very few measure work styles. We measure all those plus learning styles, communication styles. And so we bought an instrument because it's very hard to develop these tools. It takes 10 years to get them validated across 100,000 people. So Microsoft can't just go out and like build one. They have to buy somebody or take 10 years to build it. So of these 20 to 30 tools we bought one that we got lucky and found it, and it was open and available, and it measures in 10 minutes when nobody can measure in an hour. So we do give that instrument out to all employees and our customers. It's a link. They'll take a 10-minute assessment, and now all those insights, like my 15 pages about me, 15 pages about Chris Fanchi, are now flowing through Slack, Teams, Microsoft virtual meetings, Outlook, Google Workspace, instantly once it's turned on as a plugin. It's already been integrated seamlessly. We also have made it available where companies can upload their current assessment tools that they already use, because in many sales calls, even though our assessment is so much better than any tool out there, it doesn't matter if you're best of breed in the best product. A lot of people as buyers, and this also applies to heads of HR, in this case, are certified in a certain tool, spent hours training. It's been really painful for them to get even 10% of their executives to take Hogan. So they don't want to switch, and people are lazy often. And that's going to be that's going to lead to a no. And so now we go to them and say, hey, you only get your tool, the Hogan or the DISC or the predictive index, for 10% of employees. So not everybody's getting access. And even those 10% use it once. Our tool, or any tool, Hogan, DISC, through our platform gets used 200 times a year. So why don't you upload for 10% of your employees the one you love? And for the other ones, we'll give you ours for free and just pay us for the usage. And so that's kind of what we do. And like Uber, we're just taking this whole industry to the next level where it's integrated into workflow and you can ask a coach for the results and the insights.
Okay, really interesting. So, talk a little bit more about your AI coach, Ask Aura. Can you share a few examples of how it's helping employees and teams in real time?
Yeah, one of the most popular features right now is for individual self-development. There's a button that says, how would you want to develop yourself or understand yourself and develop yourself? And so one company, for instance, 5,000 employees, they want to move into AI. They have no idea of 5,000 employees who's ready for AI, who's not ready for AI. So before they just pick a tool and say everybody use it, they want to get a better understanding. And so what they've asked everyone to do is to go into Ask Aura to the self-development tab. It's just a little email. Go here, click here, and all 5,000 people are going to click on 3 buttons that are already there. And it's now part of the product for everyone, but this was the company that had us do it first. And there's an AI readiness button. You click on it, and then there's 3 questions, and it'll answer all 3 instantly. Everything I'm telling you to do takes 2 minutes, but it's worth 3 weeks of research by a human being to come up with a plan, the development plan this accurate. So here are the 3 questions. How am I aligned to being AI ready or not? And what are risks and gaps for me to kind of figure AI out and learn it? And it'll give you all these, like, a whole page of like where you're aligned, risks and gaps on how you learn, and your the way you think about things. And then it'll answer the next question. Well, what's some content, videos, and resources from the broad internet that could help with my specific risks and gaps? Okay. And so it's going to be personalized to my learning style, because if I'm conceptual and Chris, you're practical, well, the internet, it's going to give me stuff from the internet that's conceptual for me and practical for you. And it's already personalized because your risks and gaps are different from mine. So it's a double layer of personalization. And then instantly it'll answer the third question, which is give me a 3-hour per week development plan over 3 months, where it takes all that information and tells me the links and what I need to push. So every week, 3 hours, I know exactly what to do, where to go, and I can learn. Right. So all of that with that development plan would take a real personal coach, which about $20,000, 3 weeks to go and do all the research and figure it out. That's one great example that's being used by one client that now other clients want to use. Another one is I'm a 23-year-old at Burger King. I've been working for 4 years. I'm really good at starting college, and I just got promoted to run a new Burger King store down the street about 2 miles away. Never met the employees. So I pull the car over in the parking lot. I'm showing up for the first day at work where I'm going to manage 20 new employees. I'm scared bleepless. And so I pull over the car, I pull up my phone, and I say, what is the culture and the dynamics of the store that I'm about to manage? And it literally will go through the 20 people, the 15 pages each, so 350 or whatever pages that is, and of data. And it's going to say these 4 bullet points. This team is really creative. Give them room to have ideas. This team's very direct. You should communicate directly. Don't beat around the bush. They want someone to be direct, and they're competitive. Do a ranking of everybody's performance each week because they would get motivated by that, whereas other people might not like that, right? So, and then I could say, okay, now give me a motivational speech that's 2.5 minutes long that really plays to their what motivates them and who they are as people, right? And it'll just give me a quick script and I can memorize it and go in. And that first day, they're like, "Oh my God, this guy John, he's an amazing leader. He totally spoke to us," right? Which usually norming, forming, storming takes a long time. Another example is picking teams. Consulting firms are always, we have Accenture who signed our agreement to use our tool for all 600,000 people around the world. And what they love about it is for better client success, you need a new team, and they form teams every 3 to 6 months consistently. You need a team to get up and running, do the norming, forming, storming, not in 3 months, but in like a week, so that when you are interfacing with your client team, they feel like you've been working together forever. They don't want squabbles. They want, right? And so one of the hardest things to do is for Accenture is they can say, oh, we need a process person. We need somebody who's an expert in consumer goods. We need somebody who's an expert in AI, future work. But what they don't know how to do and find is how to select a team based on, for example, we need a team for this client that's really out of the box, maverick thinkers, innovative, and can really communicate at a conceptual level, right? You can imagine that kind of thing happens at every company in the world. We need a team of this type of people. Well, how
Yeah.
would they find that at Accenture today? Some dude or dudette would be calling their limited circle of friends at Accenture, a partner. Hey, do you know anybody who's really conceptual? Hey, let me tell you what we're looking for. And it's kind of word of mouth. It's going to be completely subjective. And it's everybody scratching each other's back. It is not going to lead to the optimal team. Enter Ascora. Type in or speak. Of the 3,000 people in our practice, who are the 7 for a team that are a bunch of mavericks, self-starters who can influence, communicate to a client these things around products like this? And in 2 seconds, it's going to go through 3,000 people or 30,000 people and say, these are your 7 people for your team. So that's another example. Another great example is you're going to a meeting, you go into Outlook, you have a meeting next week, you got to present to 5 VPs. You click the button in the meeting, and it will now tell you the dynamics of the meeting and say, hey, Chris, you're the only decisive person in the meeting. Everybody else is deliberate. Here's ways that they will follow you better. Or you could even ask in that meeting, what's the one thing I should know if I'm training this group? So it's personalized training for that meeting. Another example is for communication, you can write an email in Outlook or in Google email, push our button right there in the email, right by send. It rewrites the email instantly for your audience on the way that they like to communicate. And then it'll give a little learning micro tip. This email was rewritten for Chris this way because Chris actually doesn't like detail. He's conceptual, and the tone that was written was too direct and harsh. He likes more soft. We kind of made it longer and softer in the way it would come across, not to annoy him, right? So those are all examples. And then the most recent one we just added, engagement's the biggest challenge in the world, right? Every young 22 to 30-year-old, they don't even know what's going to keep them engaged. They don't know who they are. They don't know what projects are possible. They never worked in the corporate world. And bosses don't know these things about that person. Well, now, since Aura knows what engages someone, keeps them motivated, and what all projects are, you can literally be like, I have this new employee named Chris. He's 23, first job ever. I don't know him, but my boss really wants him to succeed. This is our first young hire out of a public school, not a private university. We want to make sure that this could be a future talent pool. So here are 3 projects I'm thinking of giving him. One is a R&D project with a lot of analysis. One's a cross-functional project for go-to-market project. And one is a project on product development. Which of these 3 would keep Chris most engaged and why? Oh, the third one, because da-da-da-da-da. So imagine being able to give projects to people that you know will keep them engaged. Now getting rid of all these stupid programs of paying more money and giving benefits and mindfulness stuff and all the sneakers and the t-shirts and the Bing bag. Like, no, what keeps people engaged is the 40 hours a week they're working on something that's aligned to who they are, how they think, and what motivates them. No tool in the world can do that today other than Ask Aura.
So, is this tool something that would be utilized during the hiring process and to evaluate employees coming in, or is it mostly built towards internal use once someone's on board?
I love your questions. It's almost like we planned that. Uh, it was the last example I didn't want to go into, but I'll give it. So we have Ask Aura, which is our original tool for existing employees for talent management, talent development, leadership development. But we started as a recruiting tool, and I thought we would never go back after COVID. We still have 50 to 60 clients still using that original tool. Actually, they came back for it. But because Ask Aura is so powerful, and those companies now use Ask Aura for the existing employees, they ask the same question. We couldn't resist. We have now built the AI coach into the recruiting tool. So now what you can do with recruiting is, of the 3,000 people applying, and you've sent out the link to all of them through Lever HR, iCIMS, Taleo, SuccessFactors, Workday, we're integrated all those products. So you send out the link. You can now ask Aura, of the 3,000 applicants, who are most similar like our highest successful salespeople? Who are most similar like our highest successful cashier registers or call center agents? So wherever you have high turnover volume, or high volume turnover or high volume hiring, you can look at your highest performers, and our tool automatically pull out any of the 28 things we measure, the 4 or 5 things that are similar of high performers that the low performers don't have. And so you can literally ask Aura if somebody is similar to that. So it cuts the recruiting process by 80%. You don't have to talk to or even look at resumes. Just go straight to your top 20 out of 1,000 applicants who align with what works culture fit wise for performance, and then look at the resumes and see that you have 5 of the 20 that have good resumes. So we're turning recruiting upside down, where we're looking at the more important part first, because 70% predictive success is culture performance. Only 30% is resume. And for roles that are high volume, it's even higher culture. Nobody even looks at a resume of a cashier register or call center agent, right? It's really all fit. Do they fit with this? Because the call center agent at company A who's the best performer, might fail at company B. So culture is very performance specific, right? The Best Buy retail associate could fail at the biggest competitor retail associate. So yes, we do that. And then you can also hire with Ask Aura, and say, we're looking to hire for our company culture. You put it in, which of these 200 applicants actually align best with that company culture, and then look at the resume of those.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the bigger question, broad question here is, how do you ensure the technology enhances the human connection and the human element rather than replacing it?
Great question. We get that a lot. A lot of the HR leaders, I would say a lot, let's say, be specific. 1 in 3 are skeptic. They say, wait a second, but AI, the minute it's AI, it's not human. You're making it less human. And this is where I bring on my other employees to answer that, because I come across as combative. Because my answer is no, it actually makes it more human, and here's how. I'll give the analogy first in your personal life and how that translates to work. I think this is the best way of showing what we've tried to recreate. In your personal life, when you have a very dear friend, you learn over time how to come to the middle with them. And there might be some rocky friction moments, but once you're in steady state with your best friend, you know how to approach them, how to communicate, and you're not cheating, you're not taking shortcuts, you're just doing what's most effective for each other, right? Same with your spouse, right? Imagine how well you operate with your spouse month 1 and year 10, right? Much
Mhm.
better at operating. How you're like, oh, well, I know. Okay, for this challenge, I'm going to present it in this way, because if I do it the way I used to normally would do it, it wouldn't work, right? So we're just applying that to work. We have a tool that helps people to understand everyone at a level as if it's their best friend or their spouse, even if they've only met them once or never met them at all. Now, is that cheating? Is that not human? No, actually, it's really human to actually care and change your behavior for the needs of someone else. Doesn't matter if a computer tells me how to do it. Only if I really care as a human am I going to change my behavior and my approach to come to the middle for someone. Sure, a computer or technology is giving me those tips, but that's not bad. We should rejoice that now computers can work with humans to bring this moment where I can work with Chris and make you feel better, and have you more engaged. At Procter & Gamble, one of the greatest leadership tips they ever gave me was I got promoted. I was 4 years or 5 years as an assistant brand manager, and then I became the boss. I was running Tide detergent for Puerto Rico, and my boss, a guy named Valentin Ramirez, UT Austin guy, super smart. He's like, "Okay, Juan, you just got promoted. You think you have great potential, but this is where we're gonna turn your head upside down because most young guys like you have attitude, you're competitive. Now that you're the boss and you feel like you've been taking it a lot for the last 5 years, you think that now you're the boss, you're the show. Well, no. This now becomes much harder than what you were doing before." And I go, "What do you mean? I'm the boss. Like now I just tell people what to do." He goes, "No, now you have to manage 6 people, and each person, you have to meet where each person's at. So you have to change your management style for 6 different people, 6 different ways. You can't keep doing things the way you are. Communicate the way you communicate." And I looked at this guy, Valentino, I was like, "Are you kidding me? So wait, why would someone want to get promoted if now they have to change for their subordinate? Isn't it the other way around?" And it really flipped on its on the head. But that's what great leaders do. They connect with each person and meet each person where they're at. It's the more sophisticated human and soul that can actually do that. That's why leadership is so hard. It's not now that you can just give commands and orders, right? And so it was so hard to do that. I eventually learned, but that skill set that I would say 10% of people have naturally, God bless, Ask Aura now gives the other 90% people the chance to be great leaders and do that too, and be much more human in their leadership styles, to be uniquely addressing each person where they're at. And I think that is really human. Now, there are some leaders that won't use our tool because they don't give a damn. Those people won't make Ask Aura the work more human because they're not using the tool. But anybody who uses it will be creating a more human environment at work.
Well, that's hugely important. And you've said that AI will become part of every single role in the future. How do you see that shift playing out over the next few years?
Yeah, I think so. Just like before the laptop, people couldn't fathom the laptop. The laptop comes, and the laptop became part of every single person's role in a knowledge worker role, right? And then the internet, and that became part of every single person's role, right? I just think AI will become part of every single role. The supply chain person will be able to do supply chain optimization and little specific tasks within supply chain better with AI than without. The salesperson using CRM, and we saw how CRM totally disintermediated the sales role from being a pat in the back golf course type role in sales to using data to understand your client better and manage the pipeline. Now they're going to use AI to do that even better. So I don't think that AI is going to replace people. I think a person as a salesperson with AI will replace all salespeople who don't use AI. An artist who uses AI will replace artists who don't use AI. In every single role, the person using AI in fill the blank role at whatever level will replace the person who's not using AI. And there will be these specific task related AI products, an AI product for, legal, for doing all the contracting, an AI product for customer service to better understand the customer while you're talking to them. But then there'll be these horizontal AI products. So those are like more vertical that I described. Horizontal products that are using AI like ChatGPT or Copilot that everybody's using across the products, all the products, Microsoft Aviva, our own product. It goes across horizontally. Everyone's going to use it for management and that function, right? So it will be part of everything we do. Like I do believe that over the next 7 to 8 years, almost every Fortune 500 company will have a CAIO, a chief AI officer. They can't report to anyone other than the CEO for 2 reasons. One, they need to look out and say, what are all the AI innovations for us to operate as a better company, right? And that would sit under COO. But they also need to look at what are all the AI technologies to improve each product and service that we sell. 2 very different things that only at the level that could conflict with each other, that they need the CEO approval, the board approval. And I think for 8 to 10 years, every Fortune 500 will have that. But in 10 years from now, It will all be dissolved and no company will have that. It's kind of like what happened with strategy roles. There was a whole 30-year move of having a chief strategy office and a chief strategy officer and these strategy people. But once people realize that you should be building strategy into each function, all the way down to the director and manager level, and every person should look at strategy for their products, you don't really need it centralized. It's really something everyone should do. AI will follow that same pattern.
Yeah, and it's hugely important that AI not be siloed, right? Because really the technology is basically no longer going to be able to be a moat for any company. So what becomes the moat is data. And if your chief AI officer doesn't have access to all of the company's
Correct.
valuable data, then you're not going to get positive outcomes for the company as a whole.
Yes, agreed.
So you've mentioned that larger enterprises sometimes struggle to pivot quickly to AI first models. What are you seeing in terms of an enterprise adoption of AI and tools like yours? How are they approaching or viewing a tool like yours?
2022, we came out with AI for smarter collaboration, which was an integrated product, a plug-in to Outlook for email writing, for calendar, for meetings, and then virtual meetings like Microsoft Teams, Cisco WebEx, and Zoom. Those were the three specific products. We had trouble selling it because we didn't realize that there is no chief collaboration officer. So selling a product to solve a problem called collaboration when nobody has a mandate at a company, that means they have no budgets. People loved it. We still got to like 1.5 million of revenue product, but it was just a real slog, right? But the bigger problem was the following. In 2022, and we were pretty early for trying to sell an AI product back then, people were terrified of AI. I would say only 10% of buyers even were willing to push it in the company, right? So 1 in 10 clients. People were just curious to see what it is, but nobody really wanted to like take the risk. And it was many reasons. 2022, we got, oh, the data, is it secure? It's going to be in the cloud, all of our, PII data. Um, Two, it was questions like, oh, security review. Oh, you're an HR tool, but God, we cannot even trial this unless IT does it through the security review because it's in our systems like Microsoft Teams, which added 7 months to the sales cycle for enterprise. Like it just was really, really hard. I think in 2024, when ChatGPT went, remember in February to March of last year, ChatGPT went from 10 to a billion people. It was like the users, it was like the fastest growth ever. And, they did it with no marketing, no sales, no training. I mean, it was just like, oh my God, boom, light bulb. All content will be consumed via question answer. Like it's the new way that content will be consumed. Nobody's going to go into a portal. Nobody's going to read. They just want to ask questions, right? That's when we saw a huge shift. And I think it went from 10% in 2022 that were open to talking about and maybe buying it or trialing it to maybe 50%. So 1 in 2 clients, even within HR, who aren't the most innovative groups, were now willing, and they had now had a mandate to go find AI products for their function. So huge change from 22, 25 to 24 in those 2 years, from 10 to 50%. Yet there were still some barriers. They weren't so scared about security of data because they realized, and IT had confirmed, that you can have versions that are enterprise level that do not store to learn like ours and just kicks back the information. It's just more the computing power you're using. So that they were fine, check the box. So the security in the IT wasn't, security review was much shorter now. But with the one thing I still got from like 1 and 2 was AI is changing so rapidly. If we buy your AI product, what tells us that something else that won't be much better comes out a year from now? Because things are changing so much. So we got that a lot. And we don't believe that's true. There'll be lots of little feature changes, but the move from taxi to Uber, that Uber is the new way of doing it. And they have lots of new features that are coming out, but it's not, at least for the problem we're solving, it's not going to be too much different, right? That is now dissolved mostly.
In a world where AI can do so much, which human skills do you think will set people apart?
What a great question. I love that question. I don't know the answer, but I'm gonna posit a theory. So I have a 4.5 and a 6-year-old, and I know that you have 4 kids, 10, 7, 3, and 1. So you're probably asking the same question because I want my kids to have let's not even call them skills, the things that sets them apart, because I think AI will, in a beautiful way, neutralize the playing field between everyone on one hand. But the negative of that is it's going to be hard to separate yourself and show value. Um, and so I think, even in software, for example, anyone with AI is going to replace people who don't use AI. But even the role of being a software engineer won't be so much coding, it'll be managing AI agents to do the coding for you. And so I think there's just going to be everyone will become a manager of AI agents. So I think the concept of being a manager, whether it's a human you're managing or an AI agent, very different skills of managing a human and an AI agent. An AI agent is just how do you ask prompt questions, and you might have zero human skills in interaction and be weird and quirky and some strangeo, but you might ask the best questions to get the results that are most efficient. And so very different skills, but I think this concept of being a manager of things, of processes, of AI agents, of people. So I want to really teach my kids what's going to separate them is how to manage complexity, how to manage processes, juggling many things, juggling many people. So kind of the leadership skills, I think, will be much more important than any expertise or skill set individually. That's my thinking about where it's headed. Uh, yeah, and I could be totally off. What do you think?
I think that's exactly right, and I think we're we're moving away from a model of everybody focusing on technical skills, because that's what it's been for the last 30, 40 years, and finding our way back towards soft skills being of greater value, and those interpersonal skills, human skills. uh, so I think that's kind of what we're going to see.
Which, by the way, which is great for Ask Aura because it's giving everybody those skills who don't have them naturally.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So, as AI tools take on more of these routine tasks, how do you think leaders should rethink employee development and career pathways
For their subordinates, for themselves.
for younger employees, particularly? Yeah,
Y
subordinates,
yeah.
people coming up. One of the big concerns is that AI basically has all the capabilities already of a junior employee. So, what opportunities are there for people to get into career paths,
Oh, well, yeah.
because they're already outperformed by the AI?
Yeah, I think what's gonna happen is, we've all been interns, right? Summer interns during college. I think when you graduate college, there'll be like a 3 to 5 year period where you're literally just working alongside AI agents to then be ready for a leadership role managing AI agents. So I think the internship model will become just extended later for young people, because it is really going to be hard. Because if we're saying that leadership is the future and that's what's going to be valued, and the actual skill you have, somebody else is doing already called an AI agent, it's going to take longer to get to a position where you have value for a company. And so I don't think that means salaries go down. I don't think it translates to that, because companies still need to have a pipeline of people to be those managers. So they need to attract and retain people to be ready for those roles. Um, and I think companies will be doing much, much more, right? And by doing much, much more, even though much more efficient, you'll still need more and more people to be able to do all these things. So the scales of things get so big that you're not going to be eliminating things. You just need people entering in a higher position, managing more AI agents, right? Versus just one person. So I don't have a doom and gloom view of all of this. I really feel this is an opportunity for everyone, and some will take it, some won't. Just like the gold rush in California.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll end it there, John. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Can you tell people where they can find you, learn more about human intelligence?
Yeah, they can go to www.humantelligence.com. There's no IN in the middle, or www.askaura.ai, and they can write to me at john.betancourt@humantelligence.com, or find me on LinkedIn. Same name.
Fantastic. To everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to share it, subscribe, leave us a review, and as always, stay human.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Human Work After AI. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast provider so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you next time.